there, and welcome to the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. I'm Nat Ryan. Today in the kitchen, I'm going to show you how to make a classic Italian dish, but in a gluten-free, dairy-free, and nightshade-free way, and it is chicken marsala. Now, chicken marsala is like has a cream sauce and it has mushrooms in it, so a creamy mushroom sauce. But why call it marsala? Well, it's based on marsala wine, which is an Italian version of a fortified wine. Now, fortified wines are things like sherry, or Dubonnet is a French one. Sherry, we know what sherry is like, right? So it's a cooking wine, and it's a kind of a stronger version of a wine, right? And there's a little bit in there. Now, you can make it without the wine. Obviously, then it's just a chicken and cream mushroom sauce. The wine, the marsala wine does give it a particular flavor, but if you are wanting to serve this to kids or whatever, just leave the wine out, right? But we're going to show you with the wine because it's a really good with the sauce. So it's a wonderful one for date night, eh? Wonderful recipe for date night, and it's going to be completely dairy, gluten, and nightshade free. So let's get started. Okay, so you can take your chicken, you're going to put it between 2 layers of wax paper or parchment paper, and you're going to take, like I've got a meat tenderizer here, and there's that flat side, so I use that to pound the chicken. Now, when I originally recorded this, I recorded it without sound because it is very, very loud, and so now I'm just showing, has my voice over the video because this was very loud. So you just have to make sure and keep pounding away. Now, you could use a rolling pin instead of a mallet or what have you, that's something heavy that you can use to pound this in between the 2 pieces of either parchment or wax paper. Yeah, and so what we want to do is get that chicken nice and flat. We don't want it to be any thicker than, say, a 1/2 inch at the very most. So let's get it nice and thin. It works better if the chicken is all the way thawed out, you know what I mean, if it's completely thawed out. And as you're going to see, okay, so it kind of makes piece like, so that's big like that. What I typically do after I've pounded all that chicken too is to cut them in half. So make some pieces out of it, which I don't believe I have in this video, this portion of the video, and so I'm going to do the other piece of chicken, the other boneless, skinless chicken breast. You can also use boneless, skinless chicken thighs for this, and they still would need to be pounded, but they're a little bit easier to pound, and it's just a little bit more of an economical, cut of meat. I just folded that top piece of wax paper over because it was starting to rip a little bit, but my hands are full of chicken at this point, so I don't want to, got to go back in the cupboard and get some more wax paper, so I just do this. And so we're going to pound it all flat. We're almost done here, and there's flat like that. Like I said, you can cut them in half. So I've pounded the chicken flat, and I just put them in this container. And so now we're going to work with that. Now, a lot of the time, what people will do is they will dredge it with flour and fry it in a sauce pan or frying pan, and then do the sauce on top of it, right? I don't like to do that. I like to cook my flattened chicken, give it a rub, and I'll show you how to do a rub, and cook it in the oven. Because I find if I pan fry the chicken and then do the sauce over it, it makes it too oily, greasy, and it's not as good. I like to put my chicken in the oven, and I'll show you how to do a rub for it, and it's going to be absolutely delicious. So let's do that. So we're going to start with a little bowl. We're going to make the rub for the chicken in this bowl. So what we're going to start with is about around a tablespoon of packed brown sugar. So we put that in there. And then we've got our spices. Now it's a teaspoon each of oregano, thyme, basil, salt, and also garlic powder. So I'm just going to throw all that in there together. And then we're going to mix that up. So that's the first thing we're going to do. Sometimes you got to get in there with your hands because it is a rub, right? So you're actually going to get a little bit messy with this. I've taken off my wedding ring. And the elastic I usually have on my wrist because I don't want to get, chicken blood or anything like that on those. So there's your rub, okay? And then we're going to have our pan. I'd like to get out a Pyrex sort of pan here. Let me just make a bit more room here for me. Then the Pyrex pan. And we've also got a big pan ready, like a big sheet pan with parchment paper ready here as well. So I've got that handy. And we've got our chicken, right? And the other thing that we're going to need is some olive oil. So there's the olive oil. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to take that chicken. We could do it right in that container as well. And I think we might be able to do that. So let's set that one aside. And we'll get our big sheet pan here over here as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is start with the chicken on this side and that there. Okay, so we're going to take a piece of chicken, so a flattened piece of chicken, and we're going to dredge that chicken. We'll just do it right over the container that it was in. We're going to put that in there, right? We're going to rub that with olive oil. Then we're going to put that right in the rub, and we're going to rub that onto the chicken. It doesn't matter if some gets on the other pieces. So we're going to cover that with the rub, and then we're going to place that on our parchment lined pan. Then we're going to take another one, put a little bit of olive oil on the piece of chicken here. We're going to rub that olive oil in onto that chicken. We're going to put it in the rub. There we go. We're going to rub the chicken, see, like that. So it's nice and coated with the rub. Put that on the pan. So we continue in like manner like that. And so we're going to put a little olive oil, rub that olive oil on so that this is so the rub actually sticks to these pieces of chicken really well. And helps that to kind of crisp up in the oven as well a little bit. And put it on the pan. So it's really, you will get a bit messy with this. I mean, this is not, this part of it, it's hard. If you don't like to have things on your hands, this might be a little bit of a tricky thing for you to do because it does get messy, okay? But it's easily cleaned up afterwards. I'm going to put that one on the pan. So here we go. I've just got a couple more little pieces. I'll get them in there. Get them in the remainder of the rub. And one more here, put it there. The remainder of the rub on that, I'll just rub it right in there because we're just using up the rest. There we go, put it in the pan. And if you look at it, there's your chicken ready to go in the oven. So here's our chicken on the pan. It's been, covered in the rub, and we're going to put it in the oven. So we're going to put it in quite a hot oven, 425, okay, 425 degrees Fahrenheit for 18 to 20 minutes. So we're going to put that in there to cook the chicken. And in the meantime, okay, let me put my timer on. And in the meantime, we're going to make the sauce. So we're going to need a large saucepan, and that's what we're going to do next. So the first thing we're going to need to do is put some olive oil in the pan. So I like to start with a couple tablespoons of olive oil. So we'll get that in there. So there we go. Olive oil. We're going to heat that up in the pan. We may need to add a bit more, so I'm just going to set that aside over here. And we're going to heat that in the pan. And the next thing we're going to need after that heats is some mushrooms. Now what I like to do is use mushrooms that have already been pre-sliced. So you can get them at the store, and they look like this, they've been pre-sliced. I just gave mine a little bit of a wash, but they have been sliced already, and you get them that way, and it just makes it easier, quicker and easier. But you can slice your own mushrooms that you buy, not a big deal. Those are white mushrooms. I actually really like criminy mushrooms as well. So we're going to let that get nice and hot, and I want that so when those mushrooms hit that pan that they start to cook right away. So we are going to, I'm just keeping an eye on my oven as well, and keeping an eye on my timer for that. So just about there. And I wanted to show you too what the Marsala wine looks like. Well, I'm not going to put it in yet, but you can see how dark that is. It looks almost as dark as like a soy sauce or something like that. It's so dark, and it's almost brownish, really, sort of a reddish, dark reddish brown. And so that's what that looks like. Okay, so that's exuding some nice heat there now. So I'm going to throw in those mushrooms. Start to hear that sizzle. And I'm just going to move that over to my sink over here out of the way. And I'm going to grab something I like to use. Is just a, okay, it's not a very pretty spoon, but this is mine. I love to get in there. Now these mushrooms will fill that pan pretty good, right? You're going, oh, it's not going to be enough room for things. But actually there's a lot of room here because, you know, these mushrooms will shrink up as they cook. So we're going to put them in first. So a lot of mushrooms there. So it kind of fills the pan. But as these mushrooms cook, they will cook down and get smaller. So they shrink, right? You can see that, you know, already they're going to shrink up and get smaller in the pan. And so not take up as much room. Now, this is a dish, honestly, if you don't like mushrooms, you're probably not going to like chicken marsala. And that's sort of the whole point of this dish is, well, it's named after the wine Marsala, but it is a mushroom cream sauce. And like I said before, if you don't want the wine in there, or you're going to be serving it to children, or maybe you can't eat or drink, maybe you can't drink wine because you can't consume anything that has been fermented, because I've known people that are absolutely allergic to anything that has been fermented, and so they can't eat, you know, have wine at all, wine or beer or anything like that. So if that's the case and that sounds like you, then yeah. And as you can see, they're already shrinking down. I want that. See, and they're kind of juicy, and this is good because they're exuding that juice rather than kind of sucking up so much that there's no, like, I don't have to add any more olive oil to that, as you can see, because that's going really, really well. But if you do need to add a little bit more oil, feel free to do that. But give those mushrooms a chance to start coming down a little bit. So we're going to give that another minute or so, and before we add the next thing to that. So there we go. I want to give that another minute or so to saute in there. I'm trying to push some of these down so they got more access to the heat here. There we go. Turn some around, turn some over a little bit. I like to get in there with my, that's why I like my short-handled spoon, because I like to be really close. If I could get in there with my fingers, I probably would, because I like to mess around with things. I like to feel things with my hands. But obviously I wouldn't do that in this hot pan, or I would burn myself. Okay, so you can see that that is really reduced. Now I've done that on high heat, and so what I'm going to do is reduce that heat a little tiny bit, so it's sort of a medium high. Okay, and I've reduced that a little bit. There we go. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take some minced garlic. That's a couple cloves of garlic, and I've minced it already. I'm going to just shoot that right in there into the pan with the mushrooms. And so now I am just putting just mixing that garlic in with the mushrooms. You can see how much those mushrooms have reduced now, right? There's room in the pan now. Absolutely room in the pan now, for sure, right? So there you have it. Okay, so the next thing we want, we're going to put on some chicken broth. So put some chicken broth in there. I'm going to pop that heat right back up again, because I'm popping that heat back up because it is, you know, I want that to kind of get itself boiling a little bit. So I'm doing that, turn it up. And so I got the chicken broth in there. Now I'm going to put the Marsala wine in there. Mind you, like I say, if you can't drink wine, or you don't want the wine, or you're going to be serving that to children, don't put the wine in, obviously. But when this kind of starts boiling again, it's going to boil a lot of that alcohol right out of there. So it's not like it's going to be no alcohol in it, but a lot of the alcohol content will come up through the steam that comes up. So it will eliminate a lot of that alcohol in the sauce. But like I say, if you're going to want to serve this to children, I'd say leave the wine out. But, you know, right? But it makes a great dish for like a date night, right? Absolutely great dish for date night, or just the grown-ups. Say you're having a dinner party with just the grown-ups. This is fantastic, easy dish to make. Great with a salad. Great with some pasta salad, some crusty bread, Italian bread. Wonderful for that. So as you can see, I've got this now boiling, and it's simmering away and boiling there. So I'm going to like let it boil off. That's a little bit of that alcohol. We're going to turn that slightly back down to that medium high. But you can see that really rolling there now. So just give it a minute or two on that, boiling away that way. Whoops, I'm flicking sauce around a little bit, but nice rich sauce there. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point, we're going to take something else. Now, you can use coconut milk, and you could use oat milk, but what I like to do gives a really rich sauce is to use coconut cream. Okay, it's very thick. I'll show you how thick that is. Look, I mean, it's thick. Okay, so what we do is I've got some already measured out, so we don't need a whole lot, and I'm going to throw that right in there. Now, coconut will work beautifully. It can be heated very well. So there, got that in there. Coconut cream and coconut milk mixes in really well with sauces. And so you can see that that's gone in there. We're going to continue to boil that off. If you want some more in there, you think, hey, I need some more, you can always throw in some more coconut cream. You know, I've done, actually, yeah, I could probably stand a little bit more there. I'm just going to grab it this way. Big old spoonful of it. See, this is what's so great about these dishes too. These traditional Italian dishes. I mean, you can make them your own. You can say, no, I want a bit more creaminess, or I don't want that wine in there, or I want to add some, maybe you want to add some green pepper in there, or some zucchini in there. Why not? You know, you make it your own, right? But, and I've even heard of people putting tomatoes in their chicken marsala, which isn't actually traditional, but to put the tomatoes right in there, or chopped up tomatoes. But I have, you know, I've heard of it. So we're going to let that boil down a little bit, and that will thicken after a while. Okay, so as you can see, I've let that come down to like quite far down with the sauce. And so I've had it sauteing, and I've had the sauce sauteing, so you could see that that sauce is very much reduced, right? In the meantime as well, the chicken was ready. So I took that out of the oven. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab these pieces of chicken, and we're going to put them right in the sauce. Right? So we're going to put them right in the pan with the sauce. I'm trying to move the move the mushrooms over. And we're going to put that chicken right in with the sauce. So, you know, it could be a tight squeeze there, see? So we're going to have that. And we can turn that up a little bit. Turn that temperature up. And I did check the chicken to make sure it was cooked. As you can see here, that it was cooked through first. And then we're just going to put that chicken in with the sauce. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit, and then turn it back down. Oh my goodness, that's so good. I'm licking my fingers sore. Need a cloth to wipe my fingers off too. And that's what it looks like. And that's chicken marsala. So what you're going to do is just let that simmer a little bit in the sauce, and then you serve. And here's what it looks like. Chicken marsala, beautiful dish. I added a little bit of oregano sprig to that, fresh oregano from my own garden. But what you got is a beautiful meal. And I mean, it was great as, like I say, a date night. Here, I gotta get the glare off of my face. But that looks great with a date night kind of dinner. Or like I say, you can have it as a family dinner if you eliminate the wine in it. And it's 100%, there's no gluten because we didn't use any flour on it anyway. And it is dairy free, and there is no nightshades in it as well. And, you know, if you want to make it for the kids, just leave the wine out. Or you could have it for date night. Works great if you have a nice salad, some crusty bread, to soak up all the juices and stuff. And it's a great dinner, and I hope you really enjoy it. And thanks so much for watching the Dietary Restriction Kitchen. And I can't wait to see you again next time. Bye for now.